Hello. Thank you for joining us for Shining Light on Shadows, a candid conversation about mental health. This is a very special episode.
We are focusing on perimenopause and mental health. My name is Neil Parek. I'm a co-host and producer. That's my colleague, Dawn Helmert, who's our co-host. And I can't tell you how much it means to me that we're doing this show finally, Dawn. We've talked about this for several months.
We have. Yeah, I'm really excited. We have some fabulous guests with a wealth of knowledge and personal experience that I think is really going to make this show spectacular today.
We are live on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and my website. We're live on both my Facebook and Dawn's Facebook pages, and also both of our Instagram channels. And as much as I hate to look off camera, having to go live on Instagram, hitting a quick button there. But we encourage everyone who's watching, particularly if you're watching the replay, thank you very much for coming back to catch this show when it was the right time for you. We started this show about a year and a half ago. We're at episode 39 now, with the goal of reducing the stigma around mental health. And we've covered a range of different topics. But I think with today, Dawn, we're really, and I think one of our guests used the phrase, I feel like we're taking it to the next level in terms of addressing the stigmas around menopause and really normalizing the conversation around these issues.
Yeah, 100%. I think that as I have said to you many times, Neil, I didn't know really what was happening to my body, both on the inside and the outside, when I started perimenopause, and I didn't feel like I had anybody. My mom never talked about menopause, and I didn't really have any friends that talked about menopause. So I think when I started posting things on Facebook about the way that I was feeling, and women were coming out of the woodworks. You have all these Facebook friends, and you don't ever necessarily interact with them, and they're like, right on, sister, like, oh my God, this is exactly how I'm feeling. And I just think it's really beneficial to talk about this out loud in a setting like this for people who are experiencing this.
Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and get this show going, because we have a lot of ground to cover, and we have some great guests. We want to first acknowledge some of the people who are watching, at least. Jonathan Borstein is watching from the East Village. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us. Candace Sanchez is watching from Milwaukee. And Candace is a longtime friend of both mine and Dawn, and in fact is going to be a guest on our next episode. We'll just take a quick moment to reference that because we're going to follow up this conversation. We're talking about perimenopause today, but on December 11th, we're going to focus on postmenopause and mental health. And Candace will be one of our guests. Tess Rondo, who is a small business owner, will be joining us. And then Dr. Ellen Albertson, who's on today's show, will be coming back for our next show. So we're very excited about that. Candace, thank you so much. And Candace's comment, actually, from our last show is really what got us to schedule these shows and actually make it happen. So, she's in Wichita today, not in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So that's great. Jim Newberg is watching from Milwaukee. It looks like it's going to be a good show and an important topic. Jim is Dawn's husband, so it's always good to make sure we have these conversations with partners as well. And Kate is watching. She's anxious for this conversation as well. The struggle is real, and agree. The struggle is real. So again, like I said, we have three guests. And what we're going to do, usually we have one guest at a time. So it's a slightly different format. We're going to bring on our guest and chat with each of them individually for about 5 minutes. And then we'll bring all three on and have a group conversation. So our first guest, as I mentioned, is Dr. Ellen Albertson. She's a psychologist, a health and wellness coach, also a dietitian, and she's on the medical advisory committee for the National Menopause Foundation. Dr. Albertson, Ellen, if I may, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here. And I'm so happy you're having this conversation. I went into menopause myself about 6 years ago, and nobody was talking about it. A lot of women, if you're listening, you are not alone, and there is nothing wrong with you. If you are in a female body, it's a natural thing, and it's a really incredible transition. I know when you're in the middle of it, it doesn't feel that way, but there's so much you can do. There's nothing wrong with you. And today's conversation is really going to shed a lot of light, not only on the situation, but on things that you can do. Because there's so many things you can do, from therapy, hormones, natural things like diet plays a huge role, movement plays a huge role, things like self-compassion. So I'm thrilled to share. I know my own story. Gosh, when I hit perimenopause, let's just actually, first of all, define the terms, because there's still a lot of confusion. People think menopause is like, I'm going through menopause. The terms are perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. Perimenopause is when you start to experience the fluctuations in your hormone levels, the reproductive hormones. So progesterone, estrogen, and a little bit of testosterone as well. This can happen up to a decade before you actually go in menopause. Menopause is really, it's just a moment. It's that moment when you haven't had a menstrual cycle consecutively for 12 months. So the minute it's been a year, haven't had a period, you are in menopause, and then you get to go to postmenopause. In terms of the mental health symptoms, so many symptoms. And I want to encourage you, one of the first things that you can do is get the menopause symptom checklist. And it lists everything from anxiety, acne, breast pain, mood swings, depression. Women actually at midlife have the highest level of depression for any group for their age and gender. So a great thing to do to start is to take a look at this list. I think there's over 40 different symptoms. You can actually track how often you get them, from rarely to constant, and if they're mild, moderate, or severe. Do this, for a couple of weeks, take it to your physician, find a physician who's trained in menopause medicine, who isn't going to look at you. And unfortunately, even OBGYNs are not across the board trained at all. So you really have to find someone who is certified and knows these issues, and they can really help you to decide what's right for you. Everything from taking hormone replacement therapy. And that's a big issue, because we don't know things like depression, if it's caused by the symptoms of menopause. So like if you're lacking sleep, you're feeling irritable, is that causing the depression? Or is it something about the hormone changes itself causing the depression? So is it the symptoms causing it? So yeah, I wish when I went through, so my story is, before I was a psychologist, I was a personal fitness trainer, dietitian, it also happens so often too, right? We've got the teens. So I've got like a daughter going through adolescence, and we have to think about perimenopause too. It's almost like reverse adolescence, right? So we have these 3 different times when our hormones do a new dance. It's adolescence, it's, puberty, pregnancy, and perimenopause. So she was going through her things, and I was going through stuff. I didn't know what was happening, because we were not talking about this 5 years ago at all. I ended up seeing a psychiatrist. He put me on antidepressants, which helped. But the real thing that helped me, honestly, to get off the antidepressants and change was learning self-compassion. So I hope I get to share a little bit more about that. It's just so important to treat yourself the way you would a good friend, to understand that you can be kind to yourself rather than judgmental. There's nothing wrong with you. Understanding common humanity, that, again, if you're in a female body, it's going to happen, and that's okay. It's part of a huge transformation. Your brain is changing, your body's changing. You're getting ready for that next chapter, which can be incredible. And also mindfulness, understanding when you're having a hot flash or a mood swing or electric shocks, fatigue, you stop, you give yourself what you need. Get a whole toolbox of things that you can do for yourself when you're having symptoms and you're not feeling your best.
Thank you so much. That was really great. And I'll say even for Dawn and I, who Dawn obviously knows more about this than I do, but understanding the terms and realizing that it's perimenopause, menopause as like a moment in time, and then postmenopause. In fact, we had to reframe our title for our next episode because it's not menopause and mental health; it's postmenopause and mental health. So I think there's a lot of learning and a lot of education that's already happening. And like we said earlier, just having the conversation, I think, is going to help a lot of people. But
Yeah,
Dawn, any thoughts? Any thoughts before we bring on our next guest for just our quick intros?
Yeah, no, I really love everything that you said. And I, in our prep call, like took away so much. I was so excited that you were going to be on the show and that you were going to be the first person talking, just to kind of set that groundwork for us. And I hope that later on, after everyone's been introduced, that we can talk a little bit more about that self-compassion and mindfulness, because I think that that's a really important tool.
Great. So thank you again. And we will bring on our next speaker. And we're going to try and go through these quickly so that we can get to the group discussion. I am particularly thrilled to bring on our next guest. I love all our guests. I love all the guests, people that we've gotten to meet. But Lisa Falcone, I've known for 30 years, I think. We were at Wesleyan University together. Lisa is one of our dearest friends. And, my wife and her actually were on their freshman hall together. They do regular chats, weekly calls. Lisa, thank you so much for joining. And I'm going to say just from the outset, I know this is not your idea of fun, of talking in public and being on stage like this, but your experience with perimenopause and your experience at the health clinic, I think, is something that people will really benefit from. So thank you for doing this.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I am a women's health nurse practitioner. I work at Lifecycle Wellness, which is a freestanding midwife-run birth center. It's the oldest continuously operating birth center in the country. And we take care of people from teen years to throughout the life cycle, like through postmenopause. And I've been there for a very long time, and I've seen a lot of changes over the years in how we talk about menopause. I also wanted to highlight something that Dr. Ellen said, which is about the knowledge base that care providers come with or have about perimenopause. As Dr. Ellen was saying, my experience was like many other healthcare providers, which is I didn't get very much training, even in my women's health study in menopause. I started nursing school in 2002, right on the heels of the Women's Health Initiative study, which was, many of you may know, the study that kind of put the brakes on hormone replacement therapy, or what we now call menopause hormone therapy, because of some risks that were seen. And there were some flaws in the study we can talk about if anyone's interested. And there were some issues in that study. But there was a big concern that using hormones at midlife actually increased the risk of breast cancer, cardiovascular events, and other things like that. And we, again, like I said, we already knew that there were some flaws in the study. But we did kind of stop talking about how we can really help people go through this transition. And it really is a transition, like Dr. Ellen was saying. When I first started my career as a nurse practitioner, most people were not interested at all in hormones. They were very worried and frightened. And it really is only in the last few years that we've gained a lot more knowledge about how to help people go through this transition. that I'm seeing more people coming in, more people feeling comfortable talking about what they're going through, not necessarily always wanting medication, um, but at least finally feeling like, oh, and I'm kind of starting to understand why I'm having these feelings and these changes.
Can you talk a little bit about your experience with perimenopause?
So interestingly, a lot of people will say, I didn't know much about menopause and nobody talked to me about it. But in my, career, we talk about menopause all the time. So I knew a lot about what to expect, and it still kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. And I think I only realized what symptoms I was having in retrospect.
Mhm.
You just think, I'm under a lot of stress. I'm getting older. I'm not taking good care of myself. And I'm the only one that this is happening to. And
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel you. I do. I feel you. As soon as you said that, it really was like 4 years after I had been in perimenopause that I was like, oh, I wonder if this is what's happening to me. Cause I feel like I'm going crazy and like I'm losing my mind. Like I can't form a complete sentence. I can't, like I feel really sad, like way sadder than I should. Um, so I really appreciate you saying that from your perspective, being somebody who had a lot of knowledge and background, still had that experience where, it was in retrospect that you understood what was going on.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people have been struggling a lot with their mental health in perimenopause. Again, most people present with, I just don't feel like myself. A lot of anger, sometimes of explosive anger that comes out of nowhere that they might not necessarily have felt before. Increased anxiety is a huge issue for a lot of people in midlife. And it all does seem to be tied to the physiological changes that are happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's great. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to introduce you now to Aisha Sultan. Aisha is a syndicated columnist with the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and some of our viewers might recognize her. Aisha was a guest on our show earlier in the year. She produced a 12-part series on mental health for the local PBS station, and agreed to come back when we told her that this was the topic. She's actually written about this several times. Aisha, welcome back to the show.
Hi, guys. I'm so happy to be back. And a couple of years ago, I, like everyone else has talked about, was sort of like, what the heck is going on with me? And I just want to read a little excerpt of the first time I talked about this in my column.
Which article? Which column is this?
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have the headline. I just screenshotted the little paragraph I was going to read. So
okay.
I'll tell you later. Okay. So when my cycle turned considerably more painful in recent years, I did the math. We had completed our family. I didn't need this process for childbearing anymore. So how much longer would I be dealing with this monthly inconvenience and pain? Then I learned the age of menopause can be affected by genetics, weight, ethnicity, lifestyle factors, body size, composition, and hormone levels. So by my best guess, I was staring at 5 years of perimenopause. I financed my last car for 5 years. I had 60 easy payments left to make on a uterus I no longer needed for any practical purposes that felt like were serving me. And I was sort of horrified at the fact that it was going to last this long or could last this long. And, that was a few years ago and I'm still in the thick of it, but my symptoms have really changed. I think initially I had a lot of biological changes in just frequency and the duration and the intensity of like my monthly cycle, which really freaked me out, and was constantly trying to go to the doctor to figure out what's going on. They would say, "Oh, it's normal. You're going through perimenopause. Maybe you should go on birth control," which I was not thrilled that was the only option that was given to me. And then as I got further along in the process, and I noticed like all of a sudden menopause and perimenopause is having a cultural moment. Like I'm subscribed to 2 newsletters that I get specifically about perimenopause. I'm in a Facebook group. I listen to a podcast. Like people are all of a sudden starting to talk about it. And so then I recently wrote about more psychological symptoms, or I guess mental health related symptoms. And the one that's been like driving me crazy is brain fog, and like feeling like, oh my God, am I losing my mind? And I wrote about an incident that, okay, so this is what I wrote. I said, this incident comes on the heels of finding it harder to recall names and why I've walked from one room to the next. Sometimes I'll pause mid-conversation and say, just give me a minute. It'll come right back to me. What is happening to my brain? As the owner of a sputtering uterus that refuses to quit, I know that brain fog is a common symptom of perimenopause. But the situation that I wrote about in my column about like going into the showers at my gym at the pool after going to the pool and not taking a towel with me in the locker room, and it was like a family locker room, and just not knowing what to do in that situation, was like, how much longer am I going to be going through this, and what do I do to get my brain back? And so I've written quite a bit about it, and I'm really glad that you guys are talking about it and letting people know that, we're not just losing our minds, and like we all, and I think it's like the vastness of the symptoms, like anxiety, depression, brain fog, libido is affected, like anger, it's like, it can be so many different things. Sleep, my sleep was so terribly affected. And sleep is so tied to mood. Like I just could not sleep through the night. I was having trouble staying asleep. Like I was barely sleeping. And that's going to make you anxious and tired and foggy.
Yeah. You brought up a really good point, because nobody talks about how bad the periods are during perimenopause. Nobody talks about it. And you can't call in sick for work because, you're having this terribly horrible, intense period. But that's one of the worst parts of all of it, is the pain and the heaviness of it all is just horrible.
I mean, I was losing so much blood that I had to get 3 iron infusions. Like I was like I was trying to explain to someone that you kind of expect during 9 months of pregnancy, there's going to be big changes in your body. But like I did not, the changes of perimenopause felt more significant or just as significant as the changes in my body at pregnancy, but I was so ill prepared and nobody had talked to me. And I felt like my doctors at the time were not that helpful, It was shocking. It was life altering.
I want to repeat that for those in the back, because this is something that I think, as partners, as husbands, even if you don't have children, there's a certain understanding of the impact that pregnancy has on women's bodies.
Right.
We talk about that, right? We don't talk about perimenopause,
Right.
Much less. I mean, if you talk about it with your partner, that's a good thing, and hopefully that happens. I don't know that that's even 100%, frankly. But the idea that it's the same impact as pregnancy, I think, is really, really profound.
And the crazy thing is that there's so much information about pregnancy. Like I read so many books about it. I could talk to my partner and my husband in like, I felt like a pretty informed way. We took a class together about it. But you don't really know what's going on, how long it's going to last, what's related to hormones, what's related to like other things. There's so much you don't know about it. So all I could tell my husband is like, something is going on with me. I don't really know what it is or how long it's going to last or why I feel this way, or what's going on with me. But like, I don't feel right, and that's not really helpful for a spouse to hear either, like, I don't know.
And pregnancy lasts 9 months. And yes, the body has some implications before or afterwards. But let's not forget, during pregnancy, you don't have a period at all. So, I think perimenopause can last up to 10 years and is a very different conversation that you have with your partner, if you're able to have that conversation at all.
Right.
Absolutely. Aisha, thank you so much. We'll come back to you. We'll bring everyone back. One of the things that we'll ask you when we have everyone on stage is to specifically talk about the fact that this conversation doesn't happen in certain communities. We certainly want to explore that as well. But first, what I want to do is to just make a few quick announcements and really a big thank you to our partners. This show is produced with support from the National Menopause Foundation. So I want to acknowledge that. And as all of our shows, we get production support from Digimentors to do this show. We get the time, and I get the time and the resources and the support, the amplification, etc., to do that. So I really want to thank them for their support. We also want to bring on some of the comments that we've had, some folks watching, and we'll do that with our guests on the screen, because some of them are related to our shout outs to our guests. So let's go ahead and bring folks back on. We'll bring Dr. Robertson, Ellen Robertson, Lisa Falcone, and Aisha Sultan. Some of the comments that came in, Jeanette Ashworth says, thank you for your focus on this important topic today at the intersections of mental and physical health and overall well-being. Candace said earlier, Ellen, thank you for sharing the checklist. Such a great way to have women review how and why they are feeling what they are feeling. Thank you for the definitions too. So appreciative to Dawn for being honest on our Facebook page and giving us all a way to share. That's something I've been saying from the very beginning when we first did this show, that I took inspiration from Dawn for how candid she's been on Facebook about mental health. Lisa, this one's for you and everyone else, of course, but our good friend Tess Rondo says, I wish I'd been given a checklist when I was in perimenopause. Neither my OBGYN nor my therapist recognized the signs as I was in my mid to late 30s. Tess, Lisa, my wife Pam, and I, we all went to college together. We've been very close friends for 30 years, and she gives Lisa a big hello. Candace gave you a facts when you were speaking, Lisa. Yes to all of that. Pradnya Haldapur is watching from Silver Spring. And Pradnya, thank you so much. Pradnya put us in touch with the National Menopause Foundation, and we were introduced to Ellen that way. And Pradnya is a former guest on our show as well, talking about mental health in the workplace. Aisha, Tess reacted to your brain fog article, certainly can relate. My Digimentors colleague, Rose Horowitz, is watching from Connecticut. Thank you, Rose. My sister is watching from Bellevue, Washington. Amy, thank you. And she says she just got back from taking our mother. It's not her mother. It's our mother, Amy.
It says my mother-in-law, though.
Mother-in-law. I stopped right there. I got triggered. I got triggered by just the word mother. To her mother-in-law for a doctor's appointment. Sorry, I'm late. That's okay, Amy. Don't worry. She wants to see the checklist. We will put the checklist on our website. And we'll also do an email to everyone so that you have it, because I think it's important enough to share that resource. Candace says, thank you to the partners for that show. Amy says she's glad we're addressing this topic, and she gives hellos to Tess and Lisa as well, since she knows them very well. We also want to thank everyone who will watch on replay, because I know that the show gets picked up. A number of people watch it later. If you tag us in your comments, we will reply. We'll make sure to find it. Feel free to tag our guests as well if you have a specific question or comment for them. Dawn, why don't you take it from here?
Yes. So again, I think the conversation so far has been so good and so poignant. I really did want to ask, go back to Dr. Ellen and just ask her to talk a little bit more about that that idea of self-compassion, because I was somebody who I didn't want to take drugs, and I probably didn't for that little voice in the back of my head that had heard about that study that had said that it, you're going to get breast cancer. You have an increased risk of getting breast cancer. And so I wanted to find other ways to kind of get myself back to center. And in all honesty, I'm postmenopausal, and I really struggle with body image and beating myself up for everything underneath the sun. I am not kind to myself. My brain says very bad things in my head, and I'm often told, would you say that to your best friend? Would you say that to somebody else? Why do you talk that way to yourself? So can you talk a little bit about that idea of self-compassion and mindfulness?
Sure, absolutely. I just want to say too, the FDA just took off the black box warning for hormone replacement
Yes.
therapy. I'm a breast cancer survivor. I'm on HRT. So I'm just saying for people out there, it's a really good option for a lot of people. So self-compassion is a lot of things. First, what self-compassion is, it's essentially treating yourself the way you would a good friend. So you are kind to yourself rather than judgmental. So when you have a menopausal symptom or postmenopausal, some weight gain, hair thinning, and even just aging in general, our society, we have a youth obsessed culture. And so as women, we're taught that the most important thing about us are our looks. And when we have to be young and we have to be thin. And if we aren't those things, then we don't feel good about ourselves. With self-compassion, you feel good about yourself just for your humanness. There's no reference. You're not comparing yourself to your former self, your younger self. You're not comparing yourself with someone else. It keeps getting better. So essentially, self-compassion is being kind rather than judgmental. It's understanding common humanity, that everybody who has a uterus goes through menopause. It's normal. So that when you're going through this transition, you don't feel isolated and alone. That's part of the reason we're having this conversation, to say this is normal. When you fail, I mean, I remember one story. I was literally at a party and I couldn't remember my next door neighbor's name. And you could be totally in shame and anxiety around it, or you could say, oh, wow, this is a moment of suffering. Okay, I'm human. It's okay. Can make a joke about it. So it takes some of that pain away, that understand that common humanity. And the last piece is mindfulness. It's a little different than the mindfulness we usually think of about being present. It's about acknowledging, noticing when you're struggling, noticing, wow, I didn't sleep last night. Can I call in the office? And offices are starting to make making things available for women who are going through menopause. That's changing. There's a lot of the National Menopause Foundation is involved in it. We're having these conversations to call in and say, can I work from home today? Or, if you're having a hot flash, what do I need right now? So it's this question of, what do I need right now? And while we're working with clients, I have them make a list of all the ways that you already take care of yourself, or you'd like to take care of yourself. And then when you are having difficulty, you're feeling stressed, anxious, depressed, you pull out the list. What do I need right now? And you give yourself what you need. And self-compassion, it's like going to the gym. It's a practice, and it's really about your relationship with yourself. Self-care is kind of like what you do to take care of yourself. Self-compassion is how you relate to yourself, and you relate to yourself in a kind, compassionate, caring way. And as someone who, I like a lot of you guys, Ivy League school, more degrees than a thermometer, always like climbing this ladder of success. And it never got me anywhere. And then I learned self-compassion. And it was a total game changer in terms of what I was going through. I was still going through perimenopause of just, I can just be here for me right now. So it's this incredible tool. And you go to the self-compassion gym by practicing. You practice, there's formal practices. So you can do meditations. Kristen Neff is a great resource. You can go to selfcompassion.org or the Mindful Self-Compassion. Just Google it and you can get some meditations, and you can do informal practices. So, throughout your day, doing a little, whatever works for you, doing some breathing exercises, talking to a friend. But it's always this point of, if I had a friend who was going through this right now, how would I treat her? And if it's difficult, Dawn, I always tell people, give yourself self-compassion for how difficult it is to practice self-compassion. But it's the antidote to shame. It's the antidote to perfectionism. It's, the antidote to people pleasing. And when you're going through menopause, your brain is literally changing. Lisa Mosconi, who studies the female brain, showed that we actually increase the number of estrogen receptors in our brains as we go through menopause. Your brain is changing, and we're changing. We're getting psychologically selfish, which I personally think is a good thing. We've been taking care of everybody else. Estrogen is like, I'm going to take care of everybody. And now you're like, I have to take care of me, or I'm not going to get through this. So it happens over time. I was like type A personality, super hard on myself. We think we need our self-critic to motivate ourselves. But what the research really shows is that self-criticism raises cortisol. Cortisol and estrogen come from the same precursor, pregnenolone. So when your stress goes up, there's nothing left for the estrogen. And estrogen also helps to mitigate some of the impact of cortisol. So with self-compassion, it's helping us with that stress. We're raising our level of another hormone we don't talk about is oxytocin, which is the mammalian chemical of care and connection. So when I touch myself, my body doesn't know that it's not another person. It raises this oxytocin level, which can help reduce that stress. It can also help with a lot of my clients. I've been a dietitian for 30 years. Everybody eats emotionally, stress eating, particularly during, perimenopause. Instead of stress eating, you can ask yourself, what do I really need right now? Do I need that threesome with Ben and Jerry's and binging on Netflix? Or would it be better for me to do a little meditation, do a little yoga, go for a walk? And in terms of the body image, what my research showed is that practicing self-compassion for 3 weeks, listening to self-compassion meditations, reduced body shame, body dissatisfaction, self-worth based on appearance, and improved body appreciation. So you don't have to change your body to improve your body image. Your body image is really how you feel about your body, how you feel in your body. It's a lot of different things, but self-compassion is truly magical. It's a game changer. I wish every woman would learn it, and it makes us more compassionate for others as well. So it's incredible. And just one thing I wanted to add to just what Neil was saying earlier, I do a lot of work with somebody who has a marriage and perimenopause site. And the marriage piece is so hard because he's like, what's wrong with you? Why won't you talk to me? Why don't you want to be close? And she's like, I don't like you anymore. Don't touch me, get away. So it escalates. It's like the shadow boxing, right? And so it's really important to get some therapy, have these conversations, because a meno divorce is a real thing. A lot of people go through divorce because the smallest thing that used to not bother you can just escalate, and he doesn't understand what's going on, and it can just totally blow up.
Yeah. Dr. Ellen, I'm almost positive that my husband, who is literally a door down, is clapping and cheering right now. And he's going to be like, you are going to practice self-compassion, my dear. So really, thank you for that. I'm going to definitely look that up. Yeah. I also wanted to ask, did you want to do a couple of comments first, Neil?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt the flow, but Amy was saying that this is so helpful directly to Dr. Ellen. So I want to make sure we saw that in real time.
Yeah, for sure. And I can see everybody's kind of agreeing, and that this is, a very interactive conversation, and that's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, Candace saying self-compassion is really important. Very, very helpful. So the other question that I wanted to ask, because, our show really has a huge focus on mental health, and I wanted to kind of put it out there for all of our guests. How do you feel that your mental health has been affected by perimenopause? And anybody can answer that.
Why don't we start with Aisha on the left?
Okay. I definitely feel like I became more anxious, and I have like college age children. I have aging parents. I have a demanding career. I do a lot. And I actually am going to look up that website on self-compassion too, because it seems so out of reach for me right now when you were talking about it. Like, I just feel like, well, maybe other people who are more like highly evolved can do that, but I know I'm not capable of that. But now you're making me think I should still try. So I'm going to try. And so, yeah, I think the anxiety and, um, it, I mean, I think also, the lack of sleep just made me feel so terrible. Like the interrupted sleep took a huge toll on my mental health. So, I mean, I had to do a whole bunch of things with like melatonin, magnesium, trying these like combi patches that are like estrogen, progesterone patches, which now I've developed an allergy to. So I have to figure something else out. And then like sometimes adding on some Benadryl at night. I mean, I was like, people get really desperate around sleep. And because if you go a long time without it, your brain just feels like you
Mush.
really feel like you're struggling, to just get through the day, especially if you have a job that requires you to use your brain a lot. I don't know if any of that sounds like common to either co-guests.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sleep is a huge issue. And it takes a lot of people by surprise because just waking up in the middle of the night, frequently not being able to get back to sleep, not feeling tired at all until the middle of the day. And I think we definitely live in a youth and beauty obsessed culture, but I think we also live in a productivity culture. There isn't a lot of space for that kind of self-care, needing to, take time off from work, needing to think differently, being able to think differently. I feel like that was a huge part of what I went through. And the physical symptoms can really take their toll as well. Having low iron, losing, not all the unpredictability of it is very difficult.
Yeah, for sure.
I would just say, I was diagnosed with clinical depression. So, and definitely the anxiety, you just don't feel like yourself. It's definitely that butterfly metaphor of like you're digesting yourself. But I have to say, and now I'm on the other side, there's a new clarity that I found and with a lot of the clients I've worked with who are postmenopausal. So there's definitely hope there. But when you're in the thick of it, I know for me, the depression was a relief though, being able to get a diagnosis, and I took antidepressants and got therapy and then learned self-compassion. But the depression and anxiety and the lack of sleep were definitely an issue, but it's hard to tweeze out if it's the lack of sleep that's causing the anxiety and the depression, as you were saying, Aisha, of is it the hormone changes that are directly causing the mental health issues, or is it the menopausal impact? And we're just starting to study this because let's face it, most research has been done on men.
Right. I know. And that was what was part of what my frustration was as like a journalist who wanted to go and find all the information I could. Like, the information was not that great. Like when I first started, I mean, we're definitely getting more now, and there's a lot more people talking about it and giving you options that I feel like were not as available before. But can I ask you, Dr. Ellen, when you say that you did hormone replacement therapy, like that can mean so many things. So what exactly is that? I guess what falls under the umbrella of hormone replacement therapy?
Well, Lisa probably can answer better than me. I'm not an MD. I'm a psychologist, but it is taking some combination, I would assume, of progesterone, estrogen, testosterone.
Okay.
So you're taking hormones. If you're talking on, it could be other things like levothyroxine for thyroid hormones. So any hormone that is endowed is outside the body that you're taking. But Lisa might be able to address it better than I.
So hormone therapy typically is estrogen and progesterone. We usually don't, actually, believe it or not, there is no testosterone product that is FDA approved for women at this time. And our testosterone, from the studies that I've read, and we have a lot to learn, but from the studies that I've read, the testosterone actually decreases throughout our life. And there isn't a huge drop in menopause or perimenopause or with the final menstrual period like there is with estrogen and progesterone. And in some people, it actually increases. But what we typically do if we're going to start menopause therapy is a transdermal estrogen patch or some sort of transdermal estrogen. And then you do need to take progesterone as well, because if you take estrogen by itself and you still have your uterus, you haven't had a hysterectomy or anything like that, estrogen alone can actually increase the risk of endometrial hyperplasia, which can set you up for endometrial cancer. So you need to do that combination. And progesterone can also be really helpful for sleep. So sometimes we give people progesterone just to help them with sleep. It is the sort of the loving, sleepy hormone. So that's typically what we've been doing now.
I just had the most clarifying moment of my life. I never associated my difficulty with sleeping with any of this. I just called myself a bad sleeper. Like, I just suck at sleeping. I don't know how to sleep well. So like, this is like an epiphany for me, because I was like, everybody's talking about sleep and the lack thereof. And I think that's such a critical thing, because like, sometimes I don't even know how I function on the very, very minimal restful sleep that I get. My Fitbit is often angry at me for the poor amount of actual literal sleep that I get. So I just had to bring that up, because this was like a total epiphany for me, that sleep is a real problem for women in perimenopause, and I'm still in postmenopause for me as well. So
not just you, Dawn. A lot of our people watching, sleep and HRT is really resonating with folks. Tess says a sleep issue is so difficult, Aisha. I understand the desperation to get more. A lot of folks, Amy says, Lisa, you described me perfectly, not tired until mid-afternoon. And she said that she barely sleeps. Self-compassion was also a big issue that people connected with. What else did we have? We have a couple people watching who just checked in. Paula Kiger saying hello from Tallahassee. I've been menopausal since around 41, so that there have been some fun times with that. And Paula is a longtime colleague of mine at Digimentors. We produced a show together for several years, and as I've been describing to folks, I never dreamed that I would be asking friends, relatives, professional colleagues, whether they were in perimenopause or if they were postmenopausal. Paula, I'm going to ask you on the air, just for clarity. You say you've been menopausal. Is that postmenopause? Or maybe the folks on the screen will understand the term, or if you are you still in perimenopause dealing with the symptoms? Menopausal means what for folks?
Mm-hmm. I think that's really important to have the definitions, because and this is part of the reason why I think a lot of people don't get the help that they need or aren't able to have the conversations that they want to have, because they go to their doctor with, or to friends with issues, and everyone assumes that if you're 41, you're much too young to be in menopause, because the average age of menopause is 51, but that is the final, the year after that final menstrual period. And so having the language to talk about it is extremely important, so that you can say, there are actually studies that are showing that people are starting to have symptoms as early as their late 30s, maybe even mid 30s, because the perimenopause period can be so long, 4 to 10 years.
Wow.
And so one thing that Neil and I talked about briefly before the show started is how in certain cultures, there are stronger taboos on talking about things related to women's bodies or the way our bodies function. And so in our Asian and South Asian culture, like zero conversation was happening around this issue really at all. I just thought maybe, maybe my mom would have given me a heads up or something, but no. And every time I try to ask her, like, can you remember exactly when this happened for you? Because I would like to have an idea of when the end date is going to be. And, she's raised 6 kids. She was so busy caregiving, like doing a million things. She was like, I honestly can't remember. And I think your brain is also trying to process so much. She was just like, sometime in my 50s, like early 50s. And I
Wow.
was like, oh, that is not helpful. But I feel like I want to be much more open with my kids and, with my friends. Like I try to talk about it a lot. Or, when it makes sense. Because I don't know, it just would have felt like a little more supportive. I know my sisters and I talk about it all the time because they're close to me in age. I mean, they're younger than me. So I kind of try to warn them about, hey, these are things to look out for. These are things to ask your doctor about. These are things I went through. Yeah.
And
I
writing
almost
columns
think
about
it's
it, Aisha. Sorry, I was going to say just writing columns about it certainly puts it in the public eye and puts your name with it.
Yeah.
My mom didn't talk about it either. So I think it's a generational thing. I mean, I think it's really great. And of course, you've got, this whole celebrities talking about it. Drew Barrymore and that whole posse is talking about it. And, it's kind of weird too. One thing that I see a lot, which is disturbing, is there's so many BS solutions out there now. There's so many people trying to make money off of suffering. And it's really disturbing. I have to say, there's not a day that goes by that someone doesn't ask me if I'll like try this supplement or that supplement. And there's lots of great natural things you can do. We didn't talk much about, diet plays a huge role. That what's interesting that happens is the microbiome actually changes when you go through menopause, and it resembles more of the male microbiome. And estrogen is recycled in the microbiome, and a lot of your neurotransmitters are made in the gut. And so diet plays a huge role. And also a lot of these problems are caused by inflammation. So if you're eating a highly processed fast food standard American diet, you're going to have a lot more inflammation than if you're eating a whole food plant-based diet. So there's a lot of really good research around going more in the vegan direction, eating more what's called phytoestrogens, plant-based types of like pseudoestrogens, getting lots of fiber, getting probiotics. So there's lots of things that you can do. Exercise is super important. There's great research on things like yoga that really helping. And the self-compassion piece too doesn't reduce the symptoms, but it reduces your kind of relationship with the symptoms and yourself so that it doesn't interfere as much with your life because you're putting things in a different perspective. But there's a lot of natural things. Just a warning, if you're listening and if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Although hormone replacement therapy is a lifesaver for a lot of people.
Lisa, you had a comment that you wanted to make. After that, I'll go to more of our guest comments.
I was just going to say, I think there is definitely a generational thing going on with people feeling willing or able to talk about what was happening to them. But I almost wonder if it's kind of like pregnancy. You think you're going to remember everything about pregnancy and like early toddlerhood, and then you just forget everything. And because I feel like everyone I talk to who's been through it, and it's been a significant amount of time since they went through perimenopause, they can't remember what happened to them.
Wow.
Interesting.
I just find that really interesting.
Yeah.
A few other folks who are watching. Ashley Labetti is an inner child healer watching on YouTube from a holistic psychotherapist, inner child healer who works mainly with new mamas. Thank you for this info so I can get ahead of it preemptively, because that's the real work we rarely talk about. Ashley, thank you so much for watching. I want to mention for folks who may be watching this show for the first time, it might have been drawn in by the topic, Shining Light on Shadows, a candid conversation about mental health. We air the show twice a month, on the second and fourth Thursdays of every month, dealing with different mental health topics. Our next show, we're not going to be doing a show on Thanksgiving. We think people may have other plans, maybe otherwise engaged. But the next show after that will be in December. On December 11th, we will be tackling postmenopause and mental health, kind of the next stage in this process. Dr. Ellen Albertson will be joining us again for that conversation. Tess Rondo, who is watching in the audience, will join us, as well as Candice Sanchez. So please make sure to join us for that conversation. A few other folks who are watching as we're paying attention to the time. Dawn, I know we're approaching the hour, and we try and be fierce about finishing on time. We'll see if Dawn gives us permission to go a few minutes later, since it's such a robust conversation and people are really connecting with this. Ashley also said that prevention is sacred, awareness is healing, getting ahead of it is what keeps us from slipping into survival mode. For those of us here doing this work, even in tiny ways, I'm so proud of all of us. Thank you, Ashley. Other comments that came in when we were talking about HRT, Pradnya said, I like to play a fun game called Stress, Hormones, Anxiety. Which one is it today? Understanding how all of this kind of jumbles together. She said, hooray for HRT when we were talking about that. Let's see, who else? Candice laughed at something Dawn said, same with my Apple Watch yelling at me in terms of reminders. Amy says she is into self-compassion, super self-compassionate. Sometimes it's extreme. I'm very protective about my energy, time, and my need to rest, even if I'm not sleeping. My mom is watching from Hastings-on-Hudson. Mom, thank you for watching. She has watched almost all of the shows that we've done, which is always great. And as I was mentioning earlier, I broke through a barrier, if you will, in terms of talking to peers, friends from Wesleyan, professional colleagues like Aisha, and even in WhatsApp groups, at dinners about perimenopause and menopause. It's not yet something that I think I would discuss with my mom or older relatives just yet, but we'll see where things go. Pradnya says our moms didn't experience menopause; they were made of sterner stuff. She's joking about that. Let's see. Amy is just saying thank you to all the panelists. Kate, so many comments, but I'll leave it with a big thank you. And then Taylor is watching. Taylor L., thank you for talking about this. I'm 21 and glad to learn more about perimenopause and menopause. I think in addition to everyone who's of a certain age who either is in the middle of perimenopause and trying to figure out what's going on or right on the cusp of that, I think it's very helpful. But at the end of the day, and I think you talked about this, Lisa, that there's just not enough education around perimenopause. And people, OBGYNs don't talk about it when they're doing their basic care. So Taylor, I'm so glad that this is something that you were able to find on LinkedIn and were able to spend some time watching. If you did join us late, as soon as we finish the show, you'll be able to watch it from the beginning on all the same links that you're watching now on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on my website. We will upload the video to Instagram. We don't usually do the full episode, but we will upload the full video to Instagram. Hopefully folks will be able to watch it there.
I just want to say
Jonathan says,
sorry. Can I just say something to Taylor really quickly? Because I love the fact that someone who's 21 is like my daughter's age is watching this, is close to my daughter's age, is I also kind of want to say that, we've talked a lot about the challenges, but I have to say that being this age and being in this life transition feels really empowering. And I feel more comfortable in my skin, like as a woman, and as like the work I'm doing, I'm in so many more ways, I'm more content and happier in my life. And just like my life feels so much richer than it did when I was in my early 20s and trying to figure out what my life was going to be. And I feel like my early 20s, most of my 20s were like really difficult time. And I don't know. I just kind of, even though we've been talking a lot about changes and struggles, and I also kind of want to let you know that I feel like it's also a beautiful time. And it's a time when women like grow into themselves in a way that we can't even anticipate when we're in our 20s.
I'll just
Yeah,
add to
thank you,
that. I
Aisha.
have a few clients who are postmenopausal, significantly postmenopausal, and they say the same thing, and that they feel a lot of freedom and a lot more acceptance in their body. So like Dr. Allen was saying earlier, it can be a really exciting transition for people as well.
It's great.
I'm there, and it's awesome.
Jonathan says, good show, important topic. Jonathan is both a frequent viewer and a former guest on the show. Good show, important topic. But what can I do to get you to pronounce my name correctly? This has been a long-running conversation between Jonathan and I. I've stopped trying to pronounce his last name. I think it's Borstein, as in Bierstein. Tell me if I got it right, Jonathan. I will really hope I did. For a number of years, my colleague Sri and I mispronounced Jonathan's name without realizing it. So I'm hoping it's Borstein, but we'll see. What else do we have? Rose says, I never heard my mother's generation mention perimenopause. And then it says, with emphasis on youth. So that's interesting. I do want to bring in one comment, and I'm going to do my best to stay in my seat and not get too excited. We have a comment from Pam Stumpo, PhD. Yes, that's my wife, who doesn't use social media, who rarely watches the show, except for when her friend from grad school is on 2 episodes ago, and when Lisa is on. I'm doing my best not to embarrass you, Pam. I really am. She says, related to the cultural conversation, in Arabic, the term for menopause translates to a time of giving up, which I think is really interesting. And that could be a whole conversation in terms of how do other cultures deal with menopause and talk about it. What terms do they use? And she says, great job to all the panelists, especially my friend, Lisa. Pam, thank you for watching. Appreciate it. We still have more comments coming in. Let's see. Jonathan said, I got his name right. Borstein, like Bierstein. Borstein. But Rose says it's important to call attention to the topic. Absolutely. As a reminder for folks, this show has been presented in partnership with produced by Digimentors. These two shows, actually, produced by Digimentors, pro bono support from them, in partnership with the National Menopause Foundation. Today was episode 39 of Shining Light on Shadows, a candid conversation about mental health, focusing on perimenopause and mental health. In December, on Thursday, December 11th, we'll be talking about postmenopause and mental health. We are very much looking forward to that show. And again, Dr. Albertson will be joining us for that conversation, and she'll be joined by Tess Rondo and Candace Sanchez. So I certainly hope you are able to join us for that episode as well. And we're so appreciative of the National Menopause Foundation for all of their support and encouragement and sharing it with their followers as well. Jonathan makes a very good point. I wish more men were listening. I do know that when I put it out there on social media, I did get a lot of good engagement from my male colleagues. So I know that's one of the things that we know about doing this work. Even if people aren't able to watch it live, they see the social media posts, they see the content, and at least it raises an issue for them. It puts something on people's radar. So hopefully that will make a difference. Dawn, we're at 1:04. With your permission, I'd like each of our guests to share some final thoughts before we bring the show to a close. Is that?
I think that's a very nice way to go out, Neil. Yes.
Great. So we'll go again the way that we brought the guests in. We'll start with Dr. Albertson, Ellen Albertson, and then Lisa, and then close with Aisha. So Ellen, some final thoughts, please.
Yeah, I would just say there's nothing wrong with you. It's totally normal. So when the thought comes up, like, what's wrong with me? Why is this happening? Change your inner self-talk to what do I need right now? And what's going on that's right in my life? And just to say again, I think like what Lisa said, I'm 62 and it's so great. So take good care of yourself. And that's one thing we didn't say is that this transition, if your body is speaking to you, heart disease, osteoporosis, all of those things start to become a bigger issue. So it's a real time that's a wake-up call. Take the best care of your beautiful self.
That's
Love
great.
that.
Nothing wrong with you. Lisa?
I would just second that, to really gather around you lots of people who are in the same situation as you are, so that you have a community of people to talk about everything with. And even though I talked a lot about how care providers often don't have the answers or may not show as much compassion as they should, there's a lot of things changing. And so if you can seek out medical care if you need to, there's also a lot of options for mental health care that we can talk about it another time.
And,
I will just say that Pam has done just that. Lisa, you are our community. Tess made a comment about that earlier, that we go to you for our health-related questions. Often the response is, well, I have no idea about that particular condition, but this is what I would do. But thank you for being our person, Lisa.
My pleasure.
Aisha, over to you.
I would just say that I was inspired by the encouragement in this conversation to prioritize what I know I need. Like, I know I need a better night of sleep tonight, versus what I want or what the expectations are on me right now. Like, part of me wants to go out with some friends who are at this conference who I won't get to see very much, and have another late night with them. But I feel like in this conversation, I have sort of come around to the fact that I'm going to feel a lot better tomorrow and be a lot better of a person tomorrow if I can actually get a better night's sleep tonight. And so thank you, all of you, for helping me come to that conclusion this evening.
That's great.
A better night's sleep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's great. Yeah, I just want to thank all of you so much for your candidness, your honesty, and really, I think, reminding everyone that self-compassion is important, that there are good things that come along with this. And I agree with you, Aisha, that there's a lot more clarity I'm 53. There's a lot more clarity in my life now than there was 10 years ago. And I'm really appreciative for that part of this whole process. So.
Thank you, Dawn. That's great. Both the emphasis on self-compassion, and I'll remind folks that in Aisha's comments about sleep, that was something that was a revelation for you just during the show, that was a major part of this process and can really impact people. Thank you to everyone watching the live show. Thank you for everyone watching the recording. This is, of all the shows that we've done, Dawn, I think this in some ways will be the most impactful because it affects everybody. I mean, not just women, but their partners and their family members as well. So anything we can do to help raise awareness and reduce the stigma, normalize the conversation, all of those great buzzwords. I know that I'm going to get some good sleep tonight, just knowing that I think we did some good work today. A couple of comments, my mom, a very important show. Thank you, Mom. Amy says that she's not a Wesleyan alum, but a very big shout out to Pam, Tess, Lisa, and Neil. Rose says, next time I'd love to hear more talk about the positive effects of this process. Well done. And, join us next time, December 11th. We'll be talking about postmenopause and mental health. With that, we'll bring this episode 39 to a close. Thank you. Big thank you to our guests, Dr. Ellen Albertson, Lisa Falcone, and Aisha Sultan. Appreciate your time, your expertise, and sharing your personal stories as well. Take care, and bye-bye.
Thank you.